I'm apparently live. Yes, indeed, I am live. And while I wait for the stream to catch up, I'm going to show you guys some flying I did today. I think there's something pretty cool in here. So I was doing some acro practice. And this is all just normal stuff. I'm just filling time here, folks, while I wait for my local view of the stream to catch up and just for everything to get synced. I'm just playing around here. I find the most interesting things happen after you've started to get bored. You know what I mean? I'd been doing some flips and rolls, and then I started doing these little sideways thingies. And then there's some little hang time flips and rolls. That's all fine. How do you like the RunCam Eagle? I still like this. I think this is the best looking camera I've ever flown with. But then this happened. Well, hold on. Now I'm starting to play with the backflip under the trees here. Okay. I was doing some backflips out in the field. Hang on. Okay, it's starting to go somewhere. Hold on. Oh, it's kind of like an up elevator. It feels like an up elevator. You do the power loop, but at the end, you sort of flip out of it. And then you're just kind of sitting there. I'm going to keep playing with it, but I thought it'd be a cool thing to show the at the beginning of the live stream. Just I always like to fill a little time here. Check this out. Whoop. Oh, see, still going up there a little bit. Still sort of climbing out of the power loop. It's like an interrupted power loop, you know? Hang on, there's a couple more. I'm really proud of this. Oh, how cool was that? Oh, was that not so cool? I think that was so cool. Joop. Oh, hello, trees. And then backwards. Yay! Bye-bye, trees. Oh, I'm so pleased with it. You know, the shimmering doesn't bother me. I mean, if it was worse, it would bother me more. But the freaking image looks so good that I tolerate the shimmering. I mean, you guys, it was so dark here, and yet the dynamic range on the image is so good. I have learned to live with the shimmering. I've turned it down. I've turned the sharpening on the camera way down to like 4, I think, maybe 6 out of 15. There, yeah. So, and it's got the shimmering down, but geez, look at the quality of this image. Look, I mean, hang on a second. I want I want this one. Hang on a second. Let me pause this here. If we go back to like a little further back. If we go to like here, like right here, I can't even explain to you guys how bad this. I mean, it wouldn't look terrible, but it would look worse if it was like an 1177 or even a Swift. Look at you can't see my mouse pointer because I haven't got this set up that way, but just look at the detail, how you got the detail in the shadow of the trees. The sun is orange but not blown out. And it's getting pretty dark here. And yet the picture is so freaking usable. I don't know. I know it's not everybody's cup of tea. No, this is not GoPro, Nick. This is the RunCam Eagle. This is my FPV feed. I know the Eagle is not everybody's cup of tea, and I don't want to sound like I'm trying to just harp on it and convince everyone must agree with me. But I am so impressed with how good it looks. And, I'm pleased to be using it. So anyway, yeah, look at the clouds in this frame grab, right? Look at that. Look how much detail there is in the clouds. That's not just like, oh, pretty clouds. Isn't that nice? That's all the time. Anyway, that's a little acro move I was practicing. I still do not see my own. Hang on, I'm trying to get my own feed. I'm trying to see my own feed, and it's not working. Hold on. Let me try the preview feed. Look at the clouds in this frame grab, right? Look at that. Look how much. Yeah, I think That's good. Now I can kind of see my own feed. That's good. I kind of want to keep an eye on the feed in one window. Anyway, this is a move I invented. I'm sure I didn't invent it. There. Kind of like an elevator up. You do half a power loop, and then you sort of flip out of it at the end while you're still climbing. And then you just kind of sit in there and do something interesting. I'm super psyched about it. I'm going to keep playing with it. And with that, we will go ahead and pause this. Hello. We'll stop that. And we'll go here. Here. Hello. Hello, Internet. Welcome to the live stream. We're going to do some Blackbox log analysis and everything else I can talk about. Yeah, Daytona. It's the dynamic range of this camera is extraordinary. And I would love to try some of the other high dynamic range CMOS cameras that are out there, like the Night Eagle, there's a Foxier one. I can't remember the name of it. But there are others that are quite good. The RunCam Eagle is just the first one to come across my desk, and I'm super impressed with it. So there you go. Yeah. What do we got here? Let's see. Okay. Mr. Toad FPV asks, should I go for the 16.9 or the 4.3? If you have 16.9 goggles, then consider the 16.9 camera. If you don't have 16.9 goggles, get the 4.3. And that's not just a match what you got thing. The 16.9 image essentially takes a 4.3 and just slices the top off of it. So the 16.9 actually gives you less field of view than the 4.3, less overall image visibility. Some people have put a wider angle lens on the 16.9 so that then it opens it up again and you get more. But I think even if you have something like the Dominator V3s that have a 16.9 screen, it's worth considering sticking with the 4.3 and taking the squished or stretched image because your overall, you see more. Anyway, that's what I think. If you're going to get the 16.9, think about how you could put maybe a wider angle lens on it to open up the top and bottom again and be able to see. Because then you take the whole thing and you stretch it out, right? And then you're seeing more. Is this my new camera? No. Oh, so you're noticing my webcam. Yeah. I got some equipment this week. My new video camera is back there. There it is. You can see I was recording on the bench today. This is a webcam that I got. It's a much better webcam. I was trying to find a way to have a secondary camera for some of my shoots. Like if I'm going to do a build or a live stream of a build, I want to be able to like have a headshot, but then also like a shot of the table, like Boba Fett does, right? His live stream builds are super awesome. I'm super inspired and impressed with them. So I got a better webcam as like a secondary camera. So that I could do that, and as it's also I'm using it right now, and I think you'll agree it's way better, isn't it? Doesn't the image right now look way better? This is my old one, and it is now retired. So, what lens for 16.9? Well, I think that it comes with a 2.1, so I don't know. Would you put a 1.8 on it? I don't know. I'm sorry, I don't know. I just heard that some people were doing that. That's all I can say. Yeah, the Owl and the Night Eagle or the Night whatever. Those are low light cameras, right? Is there latency? The Eagle is reported to have more latency than an 1177. Some pilots have said they feel like that matters to them. Some pilots have said, "Oh, it's so bad." I was just flying. You saw the video. I was flying with it. Hasn't been a problem for me. And I'll tell you this. I've had several days where I was flying two copters, one of them with like a Swift or an 1177 on it, and one of them with the Eagle on it. And I was going back and forth between the two copters. And so if they're like, let's posit that there's a latency difference with the Eagle, but your brain compensates and you get used to it. Well, at that point, going back and forth between two copters, you're gonna notice that, and I didn't notice any difference. So there are people out there who will say, "Oh yeah, well you're just a terrible pilot, or you wouldn't notice the difference," and maybe that's true. But I didn't notice. I'm happy with the Eagle. I'm very happy with the Eagle. The additional latency, quadquestions.com is here. Welcome to them. The additional latency, I think, is not inherently because it's CMOS. It's because they're doing the freaking image processing, right? This wide dynamic range stuff, that's all computerized stuff. And that takes time. So that's, I think, where the additional latency comes in. But I don't know. I'm not an expert on camera technology. But geez, the dynamic range is insane, isn't it? It's just insane. It's insane. I'll live with a little shimmering for this image quality. When you go, let me just, hang on. I mean, I don't mean to harp on this camera, but since we're talking about it, hold on. Let me find something else for you. One second. Most exciting live stream ever. Oh, I'm so sorry about the sound. Hold on. There you go. Okay, I fixed it. Sorry about that. This is an 1177 style camera. It's not actually an 1177, and I'm not going to tell you what copter this is. But it doesn't look bad. I guess this is not the best example because this is a sort of a cloudy day in the middle of the day. It's like the best lighting conditions possible for a normal camera. It's not really challenging the dynamic range. So that's probably a bad example. But even still, like if you compare that to the color and stuff, I don't know. I think this is a little less saturated, but overall, just a way better image. Anyway, enough said about that. The reason for the shimmering, Jero, is because it is it's sharpening. It has sharpening algorithm to bring edge detail in, and the sharpening results in shimmering and aliasing. Exactly. So. Yeah, Michael, I measuring camera latency is much harder than people make it out to be. I have a video on my channel. I think the keywords for the video is the best way to measure camera latency, and I show a way to do it. It's not necessarily the best. It's better, I think, than many, but not perfect. It's actually the whole thing that people do with taking two stopwatches and putting them side by side, a camera on one, a camera on the other, and then subtracting the difference between them. That doesn't work. There's many reasons why that doesn't work. One of the best that I've seen is RC Shim's version. RC Shim, he's a YouTuber. I'll put him up. Hold on. Let me put him up. He has a test he does. This is him, and it's RC SCHIM, not SHIM, SCHIM. RC Shim. He has a test he does where he takes the camera and he feeds the camera back into itself so that you see the same image like in mirrors, right? And then as you move, you can kind of see a ripply wave effect. And the more latency there is in the camera, the more distant the waves are. That's a very, very clever thing. As far as I know, he invented it. It's very clever, and I like it, but I've never played with it. All right. Yeah, so I don't know. Yeah, people say it's unflyable in terms of the latency. I have no idea what they're talking about. They may have much, much higher standards than I do. But I like it a lot. So Boba Fett is here. Boba Fett, I was saying that your live stream builds inspire me and amaze me. I can't do a build in 3 hours to begin with, never mind on a live stream. So kudos. If you see me doing some live streams and I'm cribbing from you, take it as a tribute and not a ripoff. For brightness, Alexi, I don't think I changed the brightness manually on the Eagle. I know I changed the sharpening down to like 6 out of 15, both edge and detail sharpening, and I changed the saturation up to max, but I didn't change the brightness or anything like that at all. Yeah, Alexis, if you are a photographer or you're in video or image processing and you know what an over sharpening artifact is, where you get these weird lines and stuff, that's absolutely what happens when the sharpening is turned up to max on this camera. But it's even worse than that because it has such a high resolution that instead of just getting like a little white edge around the picture, in anything like grass or leaves where there's a lot of detail, the camera's resolution tries to capture the detail, and then the sharpening algorithm ruins it, And so instead of like an actual edge distortion of the sharpening, you just get this shimmery effect that's really terrible. You can take a look at my review of the RunCam Eagle 4.3, and you can see it in very, very much detail. Okay, so let's do, having said all that, let's do a black box log analysis. We're going to look here at Jazz 101. He has submitted a log. Let me go over to the correct screen. There we go. Oh, look, I'm like a professional. Full-time young list. If it's the detail he didn't like, I would say set the sharpening to manual and turn it down. If you turn the sharpening all the way down to like 1, the image is so soft the camera looks like it's out of focus. It's not really, it's no good. But if there's a sweet spot, I think, where you have just enough sharpening to get the detail back, but not so much that there's too much shimmering. But there will always be some shimmering. By the time the shimmering is completely gone on the RunCam Eagle, the image is so soft, it looks literally like watercolor out of focus. It's kind of a cool effect, but I wouldn't want to fly that way. Armando, there's a formula that equates RC command to the gyro data, and it has to do with your rates. The smart thing to do would be to have Blackbox Explorer calculate what your rate should be and have RC commands scaled to that level. And I'm not sure that it doesn't do that, but there you go. Thank you, Boba Fett. That's nice to hear. So let's take a look here at Jazz 101. Here's a link to the flight. I'm doing some PID tuning. There's no black box log as I'm flying with KISS. Well, we all have personal issues. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Let me see which set of headphones I'm going to have on here. This one, I think. And let's take a look at this. The first thing I'm going to do is, especially with Betaflight 3.0 and above, I do so much more tuning line of sight right now than with Blackbox. I know that's heresy because Blackbox is what sort of made me famous, if you will. But Betaflight 3.0, especially, and 3.01 and so on, have such a wide tuning envelope. Like it used to be that you would work your P gain up and you'd find a point where your P gain was as high as it could be, and you would rather have it higher, but you're getting oscillations, so you have to stop. And then you would work everything to the edge of the envelope and try to find a good tune somewhere within this little box, right? And now the envelope is so wide that you can just kind of tune, I don't know, tune P gain how you like it, right? A little more, a little less, and there aren't very many bad characteristics that tell you that things are going wrong. The other thing is that when you look at the black box logs, when I look at the black box logs, so often I look at them and I'm like, this is terrible. The D gain looks awful, but the copter's flying great. And I just have to shrug and go, well, there you go. So I feel like black box log analysis is no longer, well, it was never the first thing that I did when I was tuning a copter, but it's not even like the second or the third anymore. I do almost all of my tuning line of sight, or not line of sight, sorry, I can't fly line of sight, worth a darn. I do almost all of my tuning FPV, and I only turn to black box when there's a specific problem, like a yaw twitch or some weird oscillation that I'm trying to get rid of. Yeah, so let's take a look at this video, first of all, and see how we think the copter's flying. So I'm going to pause here and I'll just talk through what I'm thinking. You might think that a very gentle loop like that guy, like he just did, is not that useful for tuning. A lot of tuning defects will be brought out when the copter is sharply moved, right? I tried to help a guy at the local club tune his copter this weekend, and his rates were so low. And he wanted them low. They were like that on purpose. He prefers to focus on racing, and racers often want the rates to be low for more precision. But his rates were so low that I couldn't bring out any bad behaviors. Like I couldn't get it to oscillate because it never turned sharp enough to oscillate. But there is something you can get out of a power loop like this one that he just did. Let's look at it one more time. And that is we can watch for the smoothness of the copter's motion, especially when he changes the throttle position. If a copter's eye gain is not tuned correctly, mostly eye gain, a little bit P gain, mostly eye gain, then when the throttle changes position, the nose of the copter will go up and down as you raise or lower the throttle, and it'll be more on sharp moves. And I especially see it at the end of like a big loop like this, as you're coming down out of the loop and you raise the throttle. The nose may come up. The fact that the nose is very smooth in here, even as the throttle changes position, is indicative of a good tune, and it's indicative. If it were not like that, I would start looking at the eye gains personally. Anytime you have throttle-dependent pitch movement, I think about raising pitch eye gains. So right there, he did a sharp 180 turn, no prop wash oscillation whatsoever. Let's watch it again. And you can see he's jamming the throttle there. I'll go back a little further. Did you see that as he did the sharp turn, he's also going on the throttle? If prop wash oscillations were going to occur, that certainly would have brought it out, and it didn't. Now he's just showing off. I'm seeing a little bit of bounce back at the end of some of the rolls. Not so much the flips, I think, but the rolls. It's very small. It could probably be handled just by being a little bit more gentle on the sticks. And the copter overall, you can't hear the video. Why can't you hear the video? I don't know why you can't hear it. I'm trying not to blast out your ears, but I don't know why you can't hear it. Let's see if I can help with that. How about there? Hang on. I got the wrong set of headphones on. Hold on. No, I see that. Hold on. Is it just that? No, it's not just that the volume's low. Sorry, guys. Hold on. I can hear it in... Why is it not going over? Sorry, guys. If I turn this up, do I hear it? Oh, there we go. Well, now you can hear it, but I'm a little concerned because I've had to turn the volume all the way up to 100%, and I'm concerned the next video is going to kill your ears. So we'll do our best, but be careful. Sorry. I have the volume turned way down so you guys don't get blown out. I don't know why it's so quiet for you, but we'll keep going. Thank you for pointing it out. Yeah, this copter is tuned very, very well. And the pilot ain't half bad either. You can see that there isn't bounce on all of the flips and rolls, and it probably is because the pilot is being just a little more gentle with his fingers. All right, so this copter is tuned very, very well, and there's no point in looking at this black box because anything I see in the black box, it doesn't matter because look, it's obviously flying extremely well. At this point, the only thing that you could change about this tune would be in response to the pilot's preference. So the pilot might say, I think the copter feels a little bit sloppy when I turn in to a turn. You go, okay, well, you need to raise your yaw P gain maybe. Or I wish the nose was just a little more stiff as I was flying. You raise the pitch I gain. But there's nothing in any way defective about the tune. And even if I did see something slightly worthy of criticism, I would be hesitant to make a suggestion because it's all so good that I would want to snapshot this to be careful that I didn't screw it up in some way. So I'm sorry to say, Jazz, your copter is flying fantastic. Oh, and you didn't even give me a black box. I missed that. I also your copter is flying with KISS, so now I'm half suspicious this was all just a trick to get me to say that a KISS copter was flying really well. But there's no trick there. KISS copters can absolutely fly very well, and if you doubted it, this is proof. This is an amazing flying copter. It's fantastic. I can't think of a single thing I would do to improve it, and good for you. Yeah, I've been working with Quad Questions on tuning the QQ190 ready to fly. Hang on. It's one of these copters I have back here now. I know all you guys have seen this because you watch my channel religiously and so forth, but there it is. There's that guy. And I've been working with them on developing a tune for that. And it's interesting to me to work with other professionals who are also good tuners, because I get a tune from somebody else and I go, there's this one thing about it that I hate. But this guy's not he's a great tuner. He just tunes differently. It's very subjective. So yeah, very subjective. Okay, we're going to close this one. I'm looking forward to Dshot. I actually was talking to a vendor who is going to be sending me a copter to review, and he said, "Hey, do you want to me to put Dshot on it before I send it?" And I went, "Yeah, it's great. Save me the trouble." So I'm going to be getting in not too long a copter with Dshot on it, and we'll see how it flies. I hate to set myself up for disappointment, but there's every chance that I'll just be like, yeah, it flies pretty good, because I can't remember the last time something really knocked my socks off. It was Betaflight 271 that really knocked my socks off as to how much better it was than what came before. And 3.0 is pretty good too. I guess S rates have been pretty impressive. But many of these improvements, like going from one shot to multi-shot, like if I really try, I can find the differences. But most of the time, I'm with like Final Glide. Most of the time, just shut up and fly, you know? So we'll see if Dshot blows me away. But I already have copters flying so freaking good, it's hard to imagine them flying better. But you never know. So we'll see. Alrighty. Let's take a look at the next one. Oh, hang on. Hang on, I need to be making notes here. Bear with me 1 minute. So now we're looking at Backdraft 83. We're looking at Backdraft 83. Just did an overhaul of his power system, having some trouble getting a good tune. 2204 Cobras, 20 amp Little Bees. Good old. Oh, how long ago was that? 6 months ago? So now we're on red bottoms with X rotor 20 amps. Weird shaky bumpy behavior when flying slow. So if you're getting weird shaky bumpy behavior, the first thing I would think about doing is lowering D gain all the way to 0. And the reason I say that is that it's sort of random shakes are seldom going to be the P term. It's usually going to be the D term that's doing that. The P term is usually regular oscillations, not random shakes. So if you take the D gain to 0 and you still see the random shakes, then it's probably not your D gain that's doing it, your D term that's doing it. But if you take the D term to 0 and they go away, then it's your D gain, and you need to start looking at either reducing your D gain if it's particularly high, or maybe looking at finding ways to get rid of vibration, get rid of noise on the copter, balance new motors, new props. Maybe you got a broken standoff or a loose screw or something like that. We'll go ahead and download the video. I did not prep for this live stream by pre-downloading any of this. So there you go. It is what it is. We may have to come back to some of these. That'll come down pretty quick. 155. Let's take a look here. Okay, well that's going to take a while to come down. Yeah, the only thing you changed was the motors and the ESCs. We know that we know that the red bottoms are pretty smooth motors, so it's unlikely to be that. Yeah, we'll see. Let's then we'll come back to this one as we're downloading these files. There's 2 minutes 38 seconds. Let's see if we can go to another one. This one we already got. I don't know why that's in here twice. We already got it. This one is useless because the logging rate is 1/32. So paulacc, I'm sorry to say, we'll still take a look at your video, but we're not going to be able to look at your Blackbox log. Hold on 1 second. Let me note the time here. So paulacc, with a logging rate of 1/32, the data is just going to be big steps, big blocky lines. It's not in any way useful. It doesn't need to be 1-to-1. What you need to go for is a logging rate of 1 kilohertz. 1 kilohertz is the target for your logging rate. You can go higher if you have spare space on your data flash or your SD card, and if you don't get a bunch of little boxes that indicate that little boxes in the lines indicate that you're having breakup. But at a logging rate of 1/32, there's no point unless you're running unless you're running a raceflight revolt at 32 kilohertz, in which case 1/32 is going to be 1 kilohertz. Congratulations. But other than that, no. Robert, doesn't multi-shot have more than 512 steps of resolution, or doesn't it? More resolution is better, I do agree. Digital signal, I think, is not inherently better than analog. Analog can be good. It can be quite high resolution, but I agree that a properly designed digital is probably going to be better. Alexander, I have not used the Nightwolf at all, so I couldn't really say. The previous post was called 2307. Not sure what you're getting at there. This is Blackbox log video responses thread and post number 2307. That's the one. I'm not sure what you're asking there, Raptor. And I believe we looked at this one, so I'm not sure what the... Tell me in the comments what the point is. What your point is. Yeah. So let's take a look at this video. I guess we don't have any sound here. Hold on. No, no sound. So I do see the bumpiness. So I do see the bumpiness. The first thing I would want to know is, do you hear this in the motors in addition to seeing it in the camera? You shouldn't need to be balancing props this small. That shouldn't be necessary. These are 50-45 props. You shouldn't need to be balancing 5-inch props. If they don't come very well balanced out of the box, buy different props. That's a fact. So frankly, I have never improved the balance. If I take a 5-inch prop and I balance it and then I put it on a motor and I spin it and I measure the vibration, I have always made it worse by trying to balance it. The balancers we use are usually not very good. So I would say is put some fresh props on out of the box. Dowel props are fine. They will probably be better balanced out of the box than they are after you quote unquote balance them. And then see if it gets better. The jiggles you're seeing, the bumps you're seeing here, they do look like they could be a tuning issue. Let's take a look at your tune. You could certainly take your D gains down and see if that helped. If you lower your D gains and the problem goes away, it indicates noise or vibration is the cause. Robert, I'm surprised to hear that. I was really sure that multi-shot had more resolution than one shot. I was really sure about that. So I think that one shot has about 250 steps of resolution. I was sure that multi-shot had more, so I don't know about that. Yeah, so getting back to this, if you lower your D gains to 0 and the vibration stops and the bounciness stops, then that means that you've got a vibration problem. New props, new motors is really, you could balance the motors, but it just get new ones. You say that the motors are kind of banged up. In general, I have a video on how much vibration is normal. Check that video out for seeing what I consider to be excessive vibration. That's what I would say about that. It doesn't look to me like what you're experiencing is your camera. It's so regular. It doesn't have that kind of random violent characteristic that you get from camera. Also, you can, I don't know. I'm not 100% sure. It does feel to me like this is a tune, not like your camera element is vibrating. But you could always check the camera element to see if the lens or the board or the camera itself is vibrating as well. Anyway, there you go. No, Synergy, at the 5-inch and below, certainly don't balance props. Just if they're not balanced, throw them out. That's what I say. Blackbox log video responses post 2307. No, that's absolutely it. But look, Blackbox log video responses post 2307 is this one. I don't know. Page 154. Let's see what happens if we go there. This is page 82. There aren't 154 pages on this thread. So I think you're looking in the wrong place. There are only 87 pages on this thread. So I don't know what you're looking at. No, Hebel, if you're using, say, 7-inch, 8-inch, 9-inch, and up props, then yes, balance them, especially if you're using super, super duper expensive props like carbon fiber props. But really, 5-inch and below, don't balance them because they break so freaking much that it's a waste of time. You break so many props. If I balanced every prop, I would I would spend all day balancing props and then go out and fly and break them, come back and balance props again. Just build a copter that can use out-of-the-box props if you have a copter that's 5-inch props and below, maybe even 6-inch props. I think at 7-inch and up is where I would start thinking about balancing because you have so much more mass at 7-inch and up. Somewhere in there, the prop has so much more mass that if it's out of balance, it's way worse on the copter. It's spinning at a lower RPM, so the vibrations are lower frequency as well. Also, with a longer prop, you have more room for error of getting the balance just right. Whereas with a smaller prop, you have almost no room for error to get it right. So I would say if you like balancing props, go right ahead. But there's better things to do with our time. You absolutely can build a copter that can fly 5-inch props perfectly with out-of-the-box props. So if the props aren't able to do that, throw them away and get different props and do something else with your time other than balancing props. Is it possible those vibrations are caused by low eye gain? I don't think so. I would expect low eye gain to give the copter a kind of wandery, sloshy, loose feel, but not oscillations. I think what you're getting at is that if you add eye gain, will the copter be more resistant and stiff and resistant to changes in the motors? That's plausible, but the eye gain here is at 30. That's not super low. In general, I think of the D term as the one that most responds to sharp changes, things like prop wash oscillation and wind noise. So when the copter moves rapidly, the I term responds too slowly to keep up, and the P term also responds not quite fast enough. The D term is the only one that can really respond fast enough to keep up with that. So I think the D term is what's most useful for dealing with wind jostling, if you will. Nigel, again, if you like balancing motors, go right ahead. But if you like balancing motors, go right ahead. Nigel says, I do balance the motors. But you should buy motors that come from the factory perfectly balanced. Motors that you buy, when they come new from the factory, they should have less than, let's be generous and say 0.03 Gs of acceleration. When you spin them on the prop, with the props off on the motors tab, when you spin them up, they should have less than, say, 0.03. And most motors I've seen have less than 0.01. It's either 0.01 or 0. At that point, why would you ever buy a motor? And I'm not talking about high-end expensive motors. I'm talking about $12 a pop, whatever motors. At that point, why would you ever buy a motor that didn't come that way, right? You shouldn't have to. High-end motors should just come perfectly balanced from the factory. If they don't, if you get a motor from a high-end manufacturer and it doesn't have, let's say, 0.03 Gs or less of vibration on the motors tab, you should call them and ask them for a replacement. Now, I'm not promising you they'll give you one, and I'm not saying you should boycott them if they don't, but I am saying I would at least ask. Say, look, this is not a brand new motor. This is a defective motor. Could a motor fly like that? Yes, it can. I've flown with motors perfectly well with motors that have more vibration than that, but a new motor from the factory shouldn't have more vibration than that, and it doesn't have to, and you can spend your money on people that give you motors that are balanced from the factory. Yep, absolutely, Nigel. I mean, there's a bad one in every batch. If you can balance it, go ahead. I mean, that is a thing you might have to do. I'm just suggesting I wouldn't do it as a matter of course. If you have to balance your props and motors as a matter of course, you should be buying different motors and props. That's what I say. Okay, let's take a look then. We'll go back now to Backdraft 83, which is the one I was downloading. They seem to all have downloaded. Hold on. And let's bring up Blackbox for the first time. I am using Betaflight Blackbox Log Explorer. If you're using CleanFlight Blackbox Log Explorer, the Betaflight one is better. It has way more features and is more developed. It has a lot more development in it. Let's just check something here real quick. One second. So what he's telling us is that the video is that one, okay? And we got sequence 1 and sequence 2. Which one is which? Sequence 2. Sequence 1. This is sequence 2 is the one that goes with the log. Here's the log. Okay. We don't have a sync here. Let's take a look at sequence 1, which has the glitch at 155. I am going to turn the volume down again because I don't want to accidentally blast you guys out if there's a problem. Hold on. I want to hear the headsets that show me what you're hearing. Here. Okay, so that little twitch like that, yeah, that that could be a gyro glitch. If it's a gyro glitch, we'll know really quickly. What we can do is we can just bring up the gyros and look at them. And the gyro glitch will show up really obviously if it's there. Yeah, see, this is, yeah, see, I'm sorry, guys. I'm trying to figure out the volume, so you can hear it, but so it doesn't blow your ears out. Sorry, apologize. I don't see any gyro glitches, so that's not the issue. At least in this log, I don't see any. What a gyro glitch would show up is a sudden spike in the black box log. We don't see that, so that's not the problem. In fact, I mean, we can, let's sync that. We got to sync this up, so let's just check the sound here and see if we can get this synced up. Maybe it is synced up already. I've turned the sound down. So is it already synced? Let's watch the throttle. It's pretty close. Getting a little oscillation there in the turns. Do you guys see that the copter is slightly rolling to the outside when he does turns? Watch again in this turn. I can't tell if that's the tune or the sticks, but watch how the copter kind of rolls to the left as he turns to the right. Right there. I think that's just that as a pilot, he's not quite coordinating the turns perfectly. It looks like he centered yaw, which caused the copter to roll to the outside. But right there. It rolls to the left. It rolls out of the turn. If the copter was doing that and you were sure you were coordinating the sticks correctly, that would be a roll I gain thing. So I'm not convinced that we have an example of it. Weird, shaky, bumpy behavior when flying slow. I'm not really seeing it here. Oh, there it is. There it is. You see, there's a little bit of roughness there. Oh, that's tough. That's going to be a tough one. That's going to be a tough one. So we just don't, if we look at the gyros and we zoom in, there's nothing to see. Those little twitches like that, there's nothing to see. Let's look at the D gains. I said that wind generally was D gain, because only the D gains can respond that quickly to wind noise. Let's look at just the D gains and see if there's anything sort of crazy active. There isn't. Yeah. Man, I don't know. I see the really subtle little oscillation you're getting there. Not even oscillation, just little bumpiness. I don't know. Yeah, I can't solve that for you. And the gyros don't show it. It's so small, I can't see it in the gyros. Your gyros as a whole are clean. Your gyros as a whole are clean. You see the lines are super thin. How's your filtering? Betaflight 300. Let's look at your filtering. It's probably defaults, right? Yeah, 90. So if you had excess filtering, I might think it was delaying the PID loop enough it couldn't respond. Or if you, I could easily go the other way and say you might not have enough filtering. This is the Fury F3. This is not a Naze. Good guess, but it's a Fury F3, which has no problems with noise that I'm aware of. I'm afraid I'm a bit at a loss. That kind of low-level roughness, there's nothing in the black box that says that it's your tune. So I guess I would say to look at your camera. Look at your camera. See if the board is loose, the lens is loose. I know that's an answer I go to, but there's nothing in here that indicates that low-level roughness is your tune. Your D gains certainly could be higher. You could also try, I was going to say lower your yaw P gain, but I don't think there's anything that actually indicates that that's, I mean, that is a stock answer I could give, but your yaw P term is not super active, so there's no indication that it's causing the problem. But that's a place that kind of, those kind of little weird bumps can come out, is in the yaw axis, specifically the P gain being too high or maybe needing more filtering. There you go. I hope that's helpful. I don't know what's causing it though. Yeah, you haven't changed anything but the motors and the ESCs. Are the ESCs, they're X-Rotor ESCs, I got to wonder if they have BL Heli on them or the X-Rotor firmware. It may help to have BL Heli, but I don't know. There you go. Yep, there you go. That's what I got to say about that. That big glitch that you had, though, that's more likely to be a gyro glitch. I wish you had one of those on in your log, because that is pretty likely to be a gyro glitch, which is, and that, so try soft mount your flight controller. That's the thing I'm going to tell you to do first. If your flight controller is not soft mount it. That's the first thing to do. See if that fixes it. Okay. We're going to close that one out, and we're going to do half cab 81. Let me just make a note of the time. Yeah, Ninja Quad, but those were not cheap motors, cheap ESCs. I mean, they're well, X rotors are not top of the line, but Little B, I mean, red bottom motors are smooth. They can be smooth, so I'm not sure what the real problem was there. Yeah, I'm at a little bit of a loss. Alrighty, let's take a look at half cab 81s, get some input on an issue. I have a black box log analysis for me when I have the time. Well, I have the time tonight. Razor Star 25 amp ESCs, very good. Razor Stars are the same as cicadas, I think, not ZTWs, but who cares? ZMX Fusion motors, those are insane. Those are insane motors. And Betaflight 301. You're getting uncommanded yaw after you do a max rate roll left or right. You can see it in log 0043 at 3.5 seconds in. Let's take a look. Let's see here. We'll clean that out. Oh, but not that one. Oh, come on. Now, what I think we're going to get here, so we're doing a roll move and we're getting uncommanded yaw. Most likely, the problem is that one of the motors is maxing out. And so the motor can't spin fast enough to provide the yaw authority that's needed, and therefore the copter has the uncommanded yaw until the PID loop can respond by pulling the other motors back. Let's take a look, but that's my prediction as to what we're going to see. Oh, well, he already says. He says right here, motor number 1 and motor number 3 max out. Let's take a look. It happens at 3.5 seconds in. By the way, guys, earlier when I said if there was a yaw glitch, this is what it would look like. This is a glitchy yaw gyro. Or is it yaw? Yeah, let's look at just the gyros real quick. Hold on. And let's zoom out. Yeah, you have a problem with your yaw gyro to begin with. Do you see how the gyro goes from smooth lines to crazy to smooth to crazy? A little glitch here. Crazy. Ah, it's flipping out. It's smooth. I'm looking at the yellow line here. Smooth. Crazy. It just goes back and forth. That is, I'm sorry to say, that's a bad yaw gyro. What board is this? This is an SP Racing F3. That could be really anything, honestly, because so many boards use SP Racing F3 target. But I would replace this board personally. Now, hang on, back up. If you haven't soft mounted the board, try soft mounting it. It could fix it. You're not really going to solve this with filtering though, because it's so extreme. It goes from clean to extreme. By the time you've filtered enough to get rid of this much noise, you're gonna have terrible flight performance. So look, if you're a poor college student and you can't afford anything, then you can make this board fly okay. Soft mount it to get rid of as much noise as possible, and then filter the hell out of it in beta flight. But you're going to have weird things happening when you've got the gyro flipping out like this. And notice it's just a yaw gyro. So there you go. So there's immediately a problem with your gyro. Now, let's go ahead and look at 3.5 seconds and see your problem, your actual problem. And what let's do is here we can see the stick. You're going into left roll. And what let's do is let's bring up your motors. Get rid of the gyros. We'll look at the motors. And we see as you go, you drop the throttle. You go left. These motors spin up. These motors stay at idle. That's normal. The copter is now rolling left. Oh, sorry, bumped the mic. Sorry, guys. Now we can see that these motors are spinning up, and what that must indicate is that the copter is moving fast enough and needs to slow down. So it may surprise you to hear that when you're doing a roll, right, it feels super fast to your human brain, but it's not actually. I mean, the copter could spin much faster than that. Can spin 2,000 degrees per second is the maximum that the gyro can report, and the copter can actually spin even faster than that. So when you do a full stick deflection roll, the copter needs to speed into the roll, but then slow down so it doesn't go too fast. So it's normal if we look at the roll PIDs. If we look at the roll PIDs here, it's normal to see that we get a push into the move. Here, as we begin to push the stick left, we can see the roll P term falling. And it's really right as you reach full stick deflection that this flip out happens. Yeah. Now, that's probably not a coincidence. If you watch the stick, you can see it's right as we reach full stick deflection. I guess the explanation there is that we're accelerating into the move as the stick is deflecting. And when we reach full stick deflection, that's the point where we're not asking the copter to go any faster. So, okay, fine. So we see that the P and the D term rise, causing the copter to cease accelerating and in fact decelerate. These motors try to spin up and go to maximum. Now it's hard to judge that because, let me just get the motors back up and not the PIDs. It's hard to judge that because usually when a motor goes to maximum, it indicates the motor has stopped making thrust. And because so the example I like to use is that if you push on the brakes of a car and the car doesn't slow down, what are you going to do? You're going to push harder. And you're going to keep pushing harder until you got that pedal all the way on the floor if the car doesn't slow down. And that's what we see when a motor stops making thrust. The PID loop makes the motor, asks for more thrust and more thrust and more thrust from the motor until the motor maxes out. But in this case, I think it's actually pretty reasonable that the motors might have gone to full throttle because we're doing a flip or a roll, and now we need to arrest the roll. Maybe slow it down. So they go, I don't think we can conclude that these motors stopped making thrust, especially because normally when a motor stops making thrust like that, it goes to max and then it stays there, right? But in this case, we can see we get a burst of max throttle and then immediately the motors fall off. And in fact, notice that the motors do not fall off symmetrically. Notice that the front left motor gets a burst and then backs down again. And what that indicates is that the motor is making thrust and has done its job. When the motor has done its job, then we stop asking more of it. And when the motor isn't doing its job, we ask for more. So the fact that we get this burst here and then it drops off, the front left motor has done its job. The front right motor stays at max a little longer. So we might have, the back left motor, that we might have an issue with the back left motor here. Is it consistently the back left motor? We can see it happen again, which is interesting because you're holding the stick here. Let's just watch this real quick. Well, that was pretty fast. It happens again here, and now, again, the back left motor goes to full. The front left motor gets a little burst, and then, yeah. So your problem is that the back left motor is having a problem. It is not spinning up. The back left motor is not spinning up. That's your problem. You can start by replacing the motor or the ESC or both, depending on your budget and how much time you've got. That's what I would do. Raising min throttle was a good approach. Oftentimes when you have problems at the end of a flipper roll, when the motors first are asked to spin back up again, min throttle is too low. But if you raised min throttle to 1130, that's way high. That's so high. So that's not the issue. You should not need to change motor timing under most conditions. If you have a copter where a typical copter where you have to change motor timing, you don't have anything, there's nothing extraordinary about your copter. So if you're having to change timing to fix this issue, you probably have some other issue. I don't know. And you could try different timing, but medium and medium high timing, it should work. Medium low timing is definitely not the answer. Changing the ESC startup power to 0.125 is a good guess. BL-Heli S ESCs under some conditions have problems starting the motor up after it's been at idle, and so lowering the startup power to 0.125 can fix the issue. DMAG high, the race flight guys recommend DMAG high as standard. That's not how BL-Heli ships, but certainly isn't a bad thing to put DMAG to high. I don't think one shot versus multi-shot will fix this. And this is not a PID-related issue. You have a problem where the back left motor is being commanded to speed up and it's not doing it. And the thing to do probably is to swap the ESC or the motor. If you just put new ESCs on there, I would try changing the motors. Anyway, if you really want to, you can swap the back left with the front left or the back left with the back right and see if the problem moves. And that would indicate you swap just the motor. And if the problem moves, then it means that the problem is the motor. And if the problem stays in the same place, it means the problem is the ESC. But that's where I would go with this. Yeah, Jake, this is being recorded. It'll be up on the channel as soon as I can get the video description and insert the ad breaks and stuff. It'll be about it'll be probably not tomorrow, but maybe the day after that it goes up. It just depends. Yeah, Two Dog. I think the race flight guys say high time. Do they say high DMAG for sure? I don't know what they say for timing. Yeah, it's worth a try. If all of this equipment is brand new, then could it be the motor header? It's possible, but I doubt it. But yeah, I think the motor. Okay, let's take a look now at the next one. This is paulacc. Just make a note of the time here. This is paulacc. Paul says, have a look at this log. It's my 500 size tricopter. What year is it? Is it 2013? Sorry, Paul. I couldn't resist. It says 500 size tricopter. He just upgraded to Clean Flight 114 and set up the PIDs from scratch. Short test hover, blah, blah, blah. It looks like I is canceling the D during the blips. Well, that's interesting. In general, the I term is operating on a much longer time scale than the D term. The I term responds very slowly and looks at kind of the big picture, and the D term is very twitchy and responds very quickly to very short, precise things. So the idea that they cancel each other out, it doesn't seem like that's really possible. Let's take a look at your Blackbox log and see if we can figure out what you're saying and what you're seeing. Nope, there we go. Loose ESC signal wire. That's interesting, Mike. That's interesting. Certainly worth checking into. So, we're going to look for throttle blips. Well, I don't see any throttle blips. This blue line here is the throttle. I don't see any blips. All I see is more or less constant throttle. Your throttle is shockingly high if you're hovering. If you're hovering at 1700, your copter is underpowered or overweight. Sorry to say. I know it wasn't what you asked about, but yeah, if you're hovering at 1700, I would hesitate to fly the copter because you're going to get into a descent and you're not going to be able to pull out of it, right? That's what I would be concerned about. You have no headroom for power here. So let's just assume, oh, geez. And as far as the PIDs, I don't know. Like, for example, I don't know which axis you're looking at. Let's pick an axis. I don't think the thing is, you're not actually flying, you're just hovering. Nothing is happening. Nothing's happening. Your PID terms are basically zero. There's no meaningful information here. You can't really tune from just a hover like this. There's nothing really to see here, I'm sorry to say. You got some little bumps here. What you're seeing is, let's try and figure out what you're seeing. Here's a little bump. You see that the P term rises, which is pushing the copter into the move. If we look at the gyro, yeah, the gyro's already up. If we look at the gyro is this purple line, so you can see that as the P term rises, the gyro also climbs. The D term goes down here, and the I term rises. But there's no reason to assume that the D term and the I term are always going to do the opposite thing. What the I term does depends on, well, for example, if the copter has a high center of gravity, then when the copter rolls to the left, the copter will want to fall to the left. And therefore, the I term will need to push to the right to counteract that. But if the copter has a low center of gravity, then when the copter rolls to the left, it will want to fall back, and the I term will need to push the other way to counteract that. So the I term is going to do what it does, but it's a complete coincidence that it's moving independent of the D gain here. The thing is, because the moves you're doing are so short, you're just doing this little blips, the I term is never able to fully develop itself. If you were to pitch forward and fly forward, what you would see is that the I term would climb and reach a steady value and stay there, at which point the D term would be moving all over the place. And only when you change the copter's attitude, maybe to go into a banking turn, would the I term change. But because you're just doing these short punches of the stick, there's nothing meaningful we could really determine from this. I mean, we don't see the P term flipping out. You do this little punch and the copter doesn't go, right? That would be excess P gain. So you don't have excess P gain, but there's almost nothing you can tell from a hover in a garage about a copter's tune, unless the tune is preposterously out of whack. The number one thing I notice here is that your copter is apparently hovering close to 1700 on the throttle, which means that either maybe your ESCs are miscalibrated, or your throttle channel is not correct. Your endpoints on your throttle channel are not correct, or the copter is just dramatically underpowered or overweight. So there you go. There's my helpful advice, and happy flying. How would a copter fly with all the weight shifted to one side? Asks Flynn Mikey. Yeah, so if the weight was shifted to one side, then the motors on that side would have to spin faster to counteract that, and the I term would move to cause that to happen, right? The I term would be constantly indicating that we need a right roll if the weight was shifted to the left. That's what we would see. To answer your question some more, Paul asks, is there any benefit to having higher I? Yeah, higher I gain causes the copter to remain more stable in response to changing aerodynamic conditions. So, for example, obviously there's a lot to tuning the tail on a tricopter, and I'm not an expert on it. But in general, if I punch the throttle and the tail of the copter wags, I would want to raise the yaw gain, the I gain, but also maybe the P gain. The P term is going to act over a sort of a medium time frame. So depending on how sharp the throttle punches were, it might be the P term that would fix it, but maybe the I term. So you want I gain high enough that the copter stays stable. I tune I gain mostly by looking at throttle position. If I punch the throttle and the nose of the copter comes up, or drop the throttle and it goes down, something like that, I feel like the I gain needs to be higher. On Betaflight, at least, I hardly tune the I gain at all, except to raise pitch I gain. I almost never touch the roll or the yaw I gain, because I don't know, I don't feel like it makes a huge amount of difference under most conditions, or the defaults are just that good. Alrighty. That's Paul ACC's. Let me just get a timestamp for the next one. 13:41. What I'm doing here, in case you're not, in case you're new to the stream, is afterwards I'm going to go back and I'm going to put links to each of these into the video description so that you guys can find them easier. And I note the timestamps when I go to each one, so that I don't have to go back and watch the whole freaking video all over again after I'm done. Here we are with Northern FPV, who is asking about, he's got a Revo F4, flies very well, no video. I did a roll and it stuck rolling. I wish we had video for this, that's a shame. Let's take a look at the drive. So there's 49 seconds in. Dash, what's holding back the NASA? You mean the DJI NASA, or do you mean the NAS 32? The DJI NASA does not have software that's designed for acro flying. So it's designed for a camera platform, It makes a very, very good camera platform. It's not designed for acro flying. So that's that. The software makes a huge amount of difference in the performance of the flight controller. I used to underestimate how much of a difference it could make, but it makes a huge difference. It's astounding. Yeah, I'm always trying to, Jake, I'm always trying to make life easier for my viewers. So 49 seconds here. Oh, I see. Which video is it? It is 6 of 15. There we go. 49 seconds. So let's watch what's happening here. And I'm going to specifically watch the gyro, the roll gyro. Let's look at all the gyros, though. And we're going to look for one of these gyros to just go off the chart. Here is a little gyro glitch on the yaw axis. Yep, there's another one. Let's see if they're throughout the whole thing. Yep, there. Guys, when you see this in your yaw gyro, you need to soft mount, or you need to get maybe you just need to bite the bullet and get a new flight controller. The thing is, you say, oh, well, but I've got the 6000 gyro, and that's the good one. It's not just the gyro, but it's the specific chip that's on your board. Some of them have problems and some of them don't. So there are people who've replaced their flight controller. There are people who have desoldered the gyro and replaced it with a brand new one, the IMU chip, and replaced it with a new one, and it fixes the problem. But when you see this, that's 100% indicative of a problem with your gyro. And you can filter, but you're sort of just putting a Band-Aid on it. That's a problem. That's going to really limit your ability to raise your D gain and get really perfect flight characteristics. Anyway, so we definitely have some gyro glitches, but that doesn't make everybody's copter flip out. Here we can see the copter is tumbling on the roll axis, and then on the pitch axis too, and then on the yaw axis, and then it crashes. Okay, so let's take a look at the motors next and see what happened. Yeah, Frank, if you're a dab hand with a soldering iron, you can desolder the gyro and you can solder a new one on. People do hand soldering of surface mount components. It's hard. Don't get me wrong. Don't underestimate the difficulty. It's a very advanced move. So, yeah, but people do it. I'm very impressed with the ones who do it. So here we're rolling right. And so as the roll gyro goes up, presumably that's the commanded roll. And here we can see that the back right motor goes to 0. And the front right motor is climbing. That means the copter is pitching forward, and it shouldn't be. Oh, I see. Here you're pitching back. You're pitching back, actually. Okay, so that's commanded. So here, this motor climbing, the front right motor climbing is because we're pitching back on the stick. That's probably unintentional. I'm guessing. Maybe it's intentional. And then the copter begins pitching forward. The front left motor goes to full. The front left motor goes to full because we're pitching forward, therefore, and we're not supposed to be. Why does the front right motor not go to full? Because we're also commanding right roll. So the copter is supposed to be rolling right, therefore this motor cannot go to full, the front right motor. And you can see that the front left motor has stopped working. No, sorry. I may have had the copter upside down. Maybe the front right motor. It's motor number 2. That's the front right motor. My mistake. I had the copter upside down. Sorry. So the front right motor is where your problem is. And just like we said before, when a motor goes to full and the copter is tumbling towards that motor, it indicates the motor has stopped making thrust. So the first thing to do is to raise your min throttle. That will, if your min throttle is not high enough, the motor can fail to restart after it spins down to idle. So the first thing to do is to raise min throttle like 40 points and see if that fixes it. And if that fixes it, you can work min throttle back down again and find a value that works for you. But you may have a bad motor or bad ESC. And it's the front right motor, motor number 2, if there's that problem. I don't know of any way to test a gyro before you mount it. I mean, you just put it in the copter and you fly it. I mean, even just spinning the motors with vibration on the bench might not work, although it might. Okay. Here we are with GawainReif. Let me mark the time. Gawain says the symptom is that he does a punch out to a relatively high altitude, ends in a slow backflip, up with point nose down and let the copter fall. Motors 1 and 4 spin way up at 20. My motor is just trying its best to yaw clockwise. This means to be clockwise. So I agree that if motors 1 and 4 are spinning up, anytime you have diagonally opposed motors spinning up or spinning down, the copter is trying to create a yaw movement. The way quadcopters create yaw is that for every motion there's an equal and opposite reaction, right? So motors spinning clockwise create a counterclockwise torque, and vice versa. The copter accomplishes yaw by causing the motors, diagonally opposing motors, to spin up or spin down. So I agree. The question that you've got to ask then is, you say that the copter is trying to yaw clockwise, but in fact it's yawing counterclockwise. The question is, why is the copter yawing counterclockwise, and why does it not counteract that with the motors, or does it? So the question is where the counterclockwise torque is coming from. Let's look at the video here. And we are at 16 minutes into the video. Yoicks. Is it 16? It must be 16 seconds, right? That's got to be it. Okay. Sorry about your ears. I do my best, but I can never know how loud the video is going to be. This landscape looks familiar. Yeah, very interesting. Did you see the copter pull to the left, and then the motors spin up, and it counters to the right? So let's see if we can figure out why it pulled to the left like that. You can make your own of those drone retrieval things if you are clever with a little bit of PVC and some compressed air. You can also blow it up and hurt yourself, so I didn't tell you to do that, but it can be done. So, oh great, there's a great big dropout right in the middle. Yeah, there's a there's a great big dropout right in the middle where presumably the problem is. Let's just check here. If you give me a log file with multiple entries in it, you got to tell me which entry it is that I'm supposed to be looking at. Hopefully it's this one. 16 seconds. Throttle is down, so let's see. Maybe this is the right one. Nah, it doesn't seem like the sticks are doing. Yawing to the left. I don't know. Do motors 1 and 4 spin up? No, this is not the right one either. Because this one at around the 15-second time frame, the two motors 1 and 4 are not spinning up. So it must be this one. But unfortunately, there's a great big dropout in the middle right at the time where we would like to see what's going on. Now, that maybe that's indicative of something. Why is there a great big dropout right at the time that your copter started to lose control? I don't know. That's interesting, though, isn't it? And the other question is, how did you know motors 1 and 4 were spinning up without the black box log? There's something missing here. Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to help you much because the information that I need to help you is gone. But if we have all our facts straight, if this is the log in question, the fact that we had this big dropout right at the time that the copter became unresponsive may indicate something. Maybe you had it wasn't a power loss because we would have heard the copter reboot. We would have heard the ESCs reboot, and I don't think we did. So I don't know, but yeah. That's got to be indicative of something. That's a pretty big dropout, too. It's about an 8-second dropout. Is 8 seconds about how long the copter was doing its weird little thing? Let's find out. I don't think so. That's a long time. So here we're in control. Here he's giving inputs and giving inputs. Here it starts to yaw to the left. That's at 22 seconds. And here it recovers at 24 seconds and 25. So no, it's not dropped out for 8 seconds. I don't know. And unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to tell you because we've got that dropout right at the time when the interesting stuff is happening. But yeah, you got to figure out why it was yawing to the left. Is it an aerodynamic thing? If the props were slipping, if you had a slipping prop, the motors would spin up, but the prop wouldn't be making thrust. Have you got a prop on backwards, on upside down, maybe? I don't know. That's the kind of thing. But I didn't hear anything reboot. Let me put my headphones on and see if I'm wrong about that. Oh, I already closed it. Hold on. I don't think it's a receiver failsafe. Could it be a receiver failsafe? Receiver failsafe, the copter would hold position. So that wouldn't explain why it yawed left in the first place. Yikes, that's way too loud. Forget that. Wait a minute. What's that beeping? What's that beeping? See, I just listened with the headphones on. What's the beeping? Yeah. Low battery? Let's assume the beeping is low battery from the punch-out. Yeah, we don't hear anything that indicates there was a power outage. So, yeah, I don't think it's fail-safe. I think the beeping is a low voltage beep from the punch-out. And we see him having control inputs after the beeping. So it's not a fail-safe that caused the yaw to the left. The real question is, why, while the copter was falling, did it yaw to the left in the first place? The copter is not normally, we see the copter flying and it's not having any tendency to yaw to the left. Presumably, if he was having to hold constant right yaw to counteract some weird thing, he would have mentioned it. So there's something specific about this fall that made the copter want to yaw to the left. I'm hard-pressed to think what it was, though. It almost makes me think there's something aerodynamic. But the motor's spun up so high. The motor's spinning that fast. The copter should a copter can go really fast. So here's where I'm going to go. The copter lost yaw authority. And the way the wind was hitting it or whatever, it happened to yaw to the left. The motors 1 and 4 spun up, but didn't make enough right yaw, which is sort of why the problem started happening in the first place. If motors 1 and 4 spun that fast, the copter should be yawing crazily to the right. So the way to look at this is, why did the motors stop making enough yaw torque, yaw authority? Not why did the copter yaw to the left or what. So this is not PIDs. This is the motors stopped making right yaw for some reason. It's not that the motors stopped because we hear the motors spin up. It almost feels like a slipping prop, perhaps, but that would cause a problem on all three axes. That would cause an arm to dip, not just the yaw axis. I don't know. That's as far as I'm going to go with it. That's as far as I'm going to go with it. Hope it's helpful. You got to figure out why the copter lost yaw authority. With the motor spinning that fast, the copter should be going bonkers, and it didn't. So something else is up. I wish the black box didn't have a dropout in it. Alrighty. Let's take a look at the next one. This is Kman Raptor. Video is DVR recording, no problem. Get rid of a slight oscillation on hard 180. So if you have oscillation on hard 180s, then that's probably prop wash oscillation, and the way to fix that is to raise your D gain. You got to watch out though, because as you raise the D gain, the motors will start to get hot if there's too much vibration in the copter. So as you raise the D gain, fly for a little bit, 30 seconds or maybe at most a minute, do some hard punch outs and sharp turns, and then see if the motors are coming down warm or hot. And as you raise the D gain, if the motors start getting warm or hot, stop raising the D gain. And hopefully the motors stay cool and you're able to raise the D gain to the point where the prop wash oscillation becomes manageable. The other thing to listen for is a kind of I call it a crickety oscillation. Almost kind of sounds like crickets. And you'll hear this, and that's indicative of the D gain starting to get high. It's a high frequency, mid-high frequency oscillation with overtones. You can hear it in my practical PID tuning series where I call it out. I think it's in number 2 or number 3 of the series where I call it out. If you start hearing that oscillation, that indicates your D gains are on the edge of too high. Regardless of the motor temperature, I don't want to hear that. So yeah. Jake, I think you might be right that he's spinning the prop the wrong way. The previous example, that would potentially cause the thing we're seeing. It doesn't quite add up, but yeah, maybe. I don't know. Yeah, I agree that my answer in that last one isn't perfect. I'm trying to figure out what things could cause a loss of yaw authority that would allow the motors to spin up that fast but not have the copter be yawing to the right. And there's a relatively small set of things that could cause it. I don't know. None of them seem particularly likely, but you can see that the copter did not have enough yaw authority, because when the motors are spinning that fast, the copter should be really, really going to the right. I wish we had the black box that would tell us more. Okay, so let's take a look here. And we're going to look at your video specifically. I'm not going to look. Where's your video? Is it in the zip file? It's in the zip file. Okay. There's not a lot of point in zipping up a video file. Video is already pretty well compressed. So yeah, zipping it's kind of a waste of time. Desync, Nigel. I don't think that last one was a desync. A desync typically results, a motor didn't stop, because if a motor stops, the whole arm drops. The copter will move on all 3 axes if I get a desync, not just one axis. So I think that doesn't feel right to me. Maybe a prop, yeah, maybe a flimsy props. The prop was deflecting. That's plausible. I kind of like that. Let me mute this because it's a DVR. Oh, well, Jesus, you're racing. Come on. You're racing. Of course you got some prop wash oscillation. Don't sweat it. Yeah. Your copter looks like it's flying pretty good, and ultimately your time on the track is what will tell you if it's flying good. For racing, what I would suggest is try raising your yaw P gain. I always raise my yaw P gain on copters, even though I'm not first and foremost a racer, because I really want, I like a sharp feel to my turn-ins. No, that's the wrong one. Blackbox luck, that's the one I want. Let's look at what your gains are real quick. Hang on. 5909. 5909. Let's just look at what your gains are. Yeah, so your yaw P gain is 5.3. Double that and see if you don't like how the copter flies better, and also see if your times don't get better on the track. Your D gains are super low, 12, 7, and 20. I would try working those up. Your prop wash oscillations would get a lot sharper and smoother. So that's definitely where I would go. I don't know how you arrived at gains this low. It could just be a stylistic thing, but it feels to me like this copter must feel awfully loose with especially a yaw gain that low. Your roll and your pitch P gains are in a range I would consider to be pretty normal, but your yaw, double it. Set it to 10 or 11 and see if you don't like the way that feels better. Just try it. And then for D gains, work them up. I would say start with them around 20, maybe even 25. And if you smoke a motor, that's on you. So work them up if you feel like. But I'm usually running much higher than that. Now I'm flying acro, so I'm trying to get rid of every last little bit of prop wash. If you're racing and you just want to smooth it out a little, you may not want to go as high as I do, especially because you're not doing a lot of flips and rolls when you're racing. And if there's a little bounce at the end of a flip or roll, then so be it. I mean, as long as you're going fast. But that's what I would say. Yaw P gain, double it. See if you don't change anything else. Just double the yaw P gain and see if you like the way that flies, and see if your lap times don't get better. I think your turns will be a lot more precise with a higher yaw P gain. And then raise the D gain to get rid of the prop wash oscillation. But your copter's already flying. It just shows how shockingly well Betaflight flies, even when your tune has some things about it that aren't quite right. I haven't had any problems with King Kong props. You know I'm a big fan of those props, but, you know, to each his own. Everybody has their own experiences. Alrighty, here is phaseshift. Phaseshift is flying a ready-made RC Gobi 210. That's a nice little frame. Dodo V3. Dodo is not a ready-made RC product, is it? I don't think. Okay, but anyway. 2206, 2300 kV. Fine, slight mid-stick pitch twitches. Interesting. So here you suggest that the motors go into an uncommanded pitch change that is then corrected by the flight controller. I bet a lot of money that that's the opposite of what's really happening. The motors do what the flight controller tells them to do. Now, the motors may sometimes have a defect that causes them to stop making thrust, like a desync, but a pitch change is almost always going to be something that the flight controller commanded. So you would need the two front motors to stop at the same time in order to get a pitch change, and that's unlikely to just happen randomly. All right, so what time are we looking at? Am I downloading the right thing? I'm not. Sorry, I've downloaded the wrong thing. We want the phase shift one. We don't want any of that. Yep, Joey, you're absolutely right. I was looking at the wrong one. I got it. Thank you. Well, I've done that before, so definitely point it out if you notice it. So now let's open up the phase shift one. Make sure I've got the right one. Yeah, Alien 220. Now, is it an Alien 220 or is it a Gobi? Okay, so now what time are we looking at? I'm sorry, I've confused myself. Oh, I see. Sorry, guys. It's getting late. I read the wrong description. This is phase shift. Tons of crashes. Few of the new BB2 ESCs running multi-shot. Hopping fences at near max speed. But wait a second. Did I... Yeah, slippery in corners. Yeah. That's that yaw P gain. See, I knew he should have done that. What was the one with the twitch, though? Alrighty. Well, anyway, here's phase shift. Lost power, slammed into a fence at top speed. Drop out of the sky. If you're dropping out of the sky, then you need to, you want to get a high-def video if you can, so that you can listen for the sound of a reboot. If you've got the flight controller rebooting or the ESC's rebooting, you'll hear that a buzzer is really helpful to tell you what's going on, in addition to the ESC chimes. Generally, when the copter drops out of the sky, it's a power loss. We can take a look at the log. What do we have a timestamp in the log? Well, I guess if there's a crash, we'll know. Why are we... Hello, what's going on here? Hector, the problem with the Unify, if there's a problem with it, is that it draws so many amps at 5 volts, you know, like 800 milliamps or something. You need a really big 5-volt regulator to run a Unify. If you have one on the copter, that's great, but oftentimes people don't. I'm not sure what's going on with this log. I can't seem to open this log. I'm so confused. I see. He gave me this, but he also gave me this. Okay. So here is, I guess, another copy of the log. Let's try this. Okay, great. So then the copter drops out of the sky, huh? So we should see a crash at the end, right? Oh, there's something. What's that? Pitch gyro goes bonkers. Oh, geez, what is going on here? No. Okay, this is, look at this. Wow. Oh, I've never seen such a thing. Oh, this is amazing. This is amazing. Look what the pitch gyro does here. Look at this. Pitch gyro negative 400 and negative, look at this, negative 2,000 degrees per second. That's the maximum possible value that the gyro can report. And then positive 2,000 degrees per second. Now let me ask you, did the copter go from negative 2,000 degrees per second to positive 2,000 degrees per second in a second? I think that's unlikely. I think it's unlikely. I think we have a... I mean, surely we have a faulty gyro here, right? Surely. I mean, we must have a faulty gyro here. The copter can't have accelerated that fast. Look, here the copter is accelerating. No. We're not even... where the stick is centered. The pitch stick is centered. The gyro climbs. All of the gyros climb. Now the freaking yaw gyro is reporting maximum. I think you have a bad board. This has to be a bad board, right? The copter can't really be doing this. This has to be a bad board. This right here, the pitch gyro going back and forth like crazy, and then pegging at 2. I mean, if the copter was spinning at more than 2,000 degrees per second. This is what we would see. It would be pegged. But how can it go from plus 2,000 to minus 2,000 so freaking quickly? It would just tear itself apart. It's not possible that this is for real. It's not possible. It can't be. Yeah, I think you have a bad gyro. The copter's dropping out of the sky because the gyro is flipping out and reporting bogus stuff. That's what it seems like to me. I mean, right here, we're saying that the copter is, it's not so much that the gyro is pegging out. That's possible. But that we're seeing this immediate sharp transition from plus 2,000 to minus 2,000. It feels like a rollover error, actually. In other words, a rollover like programmatically inside the code, the gyro's data is going off the top and coming back around the bottom. But Betaflight doesn't do that. There used to be a bug where that happened, but it doesn't do that anymore. That was fixed. Yeah, look here. It goes to the top and then zoop down to the bottom. I'm going to send this to Boris. This is weird enough that I'm going to send it to Boris. But this is either a bug in Betaflight or it's a bad gyro. It can't be reflective of what's actually happening in the world. It can't be. And I don't think there's a bug in Betaflight that causes this. So it's probably your gyro. There you go. Yeah, that's what I would say. It's a good one. That's a cool one. Thank you. That's something truly interesting and novel. It's an Omnibus F3 for those who want to know. I would change out the board. That's what I would do. Change out the board. Yeah, well, MKME Lab, the arcs from min to max, it's possible that what we're seeing there is the PID loop responding to the bogus data and causing things to go. That's possible. But the swings are, I'm just not sure what could make a swing like that from max to min in reality. So I hope that it's bogus gyro data, because if it's a bug in Betaflight, it's a pretty major one. But I think that if there was such a bug, we would have heard about it. Super 6, I don't think he hit something. I mean, I think the acceleration you're seeing, you're going from minus 2,000 plus degrees per second to plus 2,000 degrees per second in an infinitesimal time. The acceleration required to do that just isn't going to happen. Just because you bumped into something. And we see it happen multiple times. The copter going joop, 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 right? In a very short time frame. It doesn't seem possible that that's actually happening. Yep, I agree. The min to max is not possible. The arcs, actually, that's a very, very good point. I'm going to open this back up again. Thank you, MKME Lab. That's a very, very good point. I hadn't gotten there yet, which is, this is log 001. Which is, if we turn off smoothing in the viewer, what do we see? Hang on. That's probably got something to do with the smoothing. Smoothing is off. Now smoothing's off. You can see it's even, yeah, there's with the smoothing off. See the difference? Smoothing on, smoothing off. Oh, yeah, look at that. That ain't legit. That's a square wave. Yeah, I have no idea. I'm going to pass this to Boris. I will try to remember. You'll have to ask me on the next live stream, what did Boris say? Because I'm probably not going to post about it. Maybe I'll post about it. This is pretty interesting. But this just can't be legitimately what the copter is actually doing. This is a bad gyro, or it's you know who I should forward this to is Nathan Soy, who works on the Omnibus. He may have some input on this. But anyway, here's the black box, and now we've got it. We'll pass it on to smart people, and they'll tell us what to think, what they think. Moving on. haybeseret is here. Let me just mark the time. I should get an assistant to mark the time for me. Then I could just charge on through. Not enough is being said about my tribute to this community, so I will add another big thank you. I didn't say that. This guy said that. I'm just reading. No, thank you so much. Very kind. I enjoy it a lot. Upgraded to 301. Flashed multi-shot on the ESCs. Most of the flight seems smoother. Strange glitches in the middle of maneuvers. Alrighty. Disable the accelerometer. Good for you. That will ensure that angle mode is not kicking in. With the accelerometer disabled, you cannot have angle mode. You cannot have any auto level mode. Let's take a look. If you suspect that multi-shot is the... Oh, dear. Sorry. We can't look at your black box. I'm very sorry about that. If you're just gonna, guys, if you're just gonna submit a black box log, just put it in a zip file and then attach it to your post as an attachment. You can't attach a text file because it's too big. RC groups won't let you do it. But if you just put it in a zip file, the zip file has a different size limit, and you can just upload it as a zip file and attach it right here and avoid issues like this Dropbox link being dead. So whatever else you've been doing with your Dropbox, haybeseret, unfortunately, I can't look at your log. What I would say is if you suspect that putting multi-shot on the ESCs made the difference, just take multi-shot off. I know that's a little bit of a pain in the butt, but you can use the Chrome BL Heli Configurator app to easily flash multi-shot and non-multi-shot firmware without any sort of weirdness. It'll just flash right from the pull-down menu, so that's nice. The weird twitches. Here are some things that you can try. The glitches. Presumably it's not a gyro glitch, because if it was a gyro glitch, it would do it both on one shot and multi-shot. You've probably gone to a higher maybe motor output rate. Possibly you could try using unsynced motor output. If your CPU utilization is on the edge of excessive, then what can happen is that if you're using synced motor output, then the motor output is synced to the PID loop. And as CPU utilization goes to 100%, the PID loop is delayed, and therefore the motor output has a glitch in it. That can happen. Now, if the CPU is going to 100% utilization too much, then you'll drop out of the sky. You're going to failsafe, etc. But if you have just marginal CPU utilization, the copter can fly almost perfectly and occasionally get little glitches like this. In that case, the thing to do is to, well, you really ought to lower your CPU utilization. Go from 8K, 4K down to maybe 8K, 2K, get the utilization. With Betaflight 3.0 and 3.01, I've seen copters refuse to arm with a 25% reported CPU utilization. Now, obviously, 25% is less than 100%, and the reason that that's a problem is that 25% is just the average, right? So you're getting spikes. But I've seen copters that would intermittently not arm at 25% utilization because the spikes were high enough that it was hitting 100%. So I like to see the utilization below 20%. I used to say 30, but with Betaflight 3.0 and 3.01, even 20%, you can still get 25%. You can still get spikes. But what you could do is you could go to unsynced motor output. Then the motor signals will be generated by a PWM generator, which is independent of the CPU. And if there's a slight glitch to 100% utilization, the motor output will not be interrupted. That's a thing you could try. Anyway, there you go. There's my suggestions. Multi-shot with an F1 board? I mean, sure. Why not? Right? Yeah, I mean, why not? It's only going to be at like 1 kilohertz, but I found a small advantage to multi-shot even at only 2 kilohertz compared to one shot. So if I had an F1 board, I would run it at 1 kilohertz, maybe 2K, 1K, and run multi-shot at 1 kilohertz, and I think there's a small advantage. But I would also just get an F3 board if at all possible. Yeah, the thing is, full-time youngest, would that show up? I guess the higher frequency multi-shot signal might show the problem when the lower frequency one-shot signal didn't. It should be easy to go back. Frankly, if this was my copter, if I went back to one-shot and it fixed it, I'd probably just stay on one-shot and say the hell with it. Multi-shot is not that big a difference. It's a difference, but it's not a massive difference. And I'm not sure I would replace all my ESCs if going to one-shot fixed it. I know that's heresy, but there you go. So there's haybeseret. And here we are. We have two more. Oh, here we go. I was accidentally looking at Bob's. Bob was the last one. I was so confused. I was like, I know I saw somebody with a Gobi 210. Where was it? It was Bob here. He was the last one. I accidentally read his. All right, so we're going to get these last two, and then we're going to call it a night. It'll have been just about 2 hours. A few weeks ago, Roll of Death logged it. Min throttle to 1090. Fine. I don't know. Okay. All right. Rightcon 15 amp ESC Afro firmware. Wow. The cap connected to the capacitor is on the signal line to smooth the input to the signal line. Oh my god, I have no idea. Yeah, why did they work in every imaginable situation except full stick deflection rolls? Because full stick deflection rolls is the most extreme maneuver that you can ask the ESCs to do. Motor number 3 going to full speed right after the start of the roll probably means that the motor has stopped making thrust. Well, motor can go to 100% at the start of the roll. It also might just mean that you're pushing into the roll as hard as you can. The question is whether it stays there. Let's take a look at the log. I appreciate the call for thumbs up. I'm not sure how much difference thumbs up makes. I really don't know, actually. I'm not saying either way. I will tell you this, though. If you guys want to help the channel in a small way, one of the #1 metrics that YouTube uses to rank channels and is the length of your viewing session. So if you start watching one of my videos, the longer you watch YouTube, and you actually don't have to keep watching my videos, although I like it if you did. If you start watching my videos and then you click from there over to an 8-hour playlist of Bob Ross, The Joy of Painting, I get a small amount of credit for having brought you in on that long session. So if a little bit of YouTube analytics for you guys, a little bit of secret, it's not secret, insider information is if you want to help your favorite YouTube stars in a very small way, watch their channel for a long time in a row, and that makes them rank higher. That's what I'm told anyway. I'm not sure about thumbs ups and thumbs downs, how much difference they really make. Although your thumbs ups are certainly appreciated. I like seeing thumbs ups just because it makes me feel good as a person. People like me. Yeah, I agree. The capacitor would kill the signal at higher pulse rates. I agree. Let's see here. What am I looking at? Here's the video. All right, let's watch the video first. Is that a cow? I think that's a cow. Let me fix the volume for you guys. Let's see. Turn the volume up a little. Where's the volume? I have no idea what the hell is going on here. I don't know why you can't hear that. Oh, I do know why you can't hear this. Hold on. There you go. I'm great at this job. Yeah, so you clearly had a motor dropout, right? I mean, we don't need to look at your black box, and we don't need to dig too deep into this. You guys can't see the video. You guys couldn't see the video. Sorry. I fail at, you can take a look at it. Here we go. So why don't you watch it one time? Yeah, I got it. Now 10 people are going to tell me you can't see the video, but I'm already 45 seconds ahead. Okay, there you go. Yeah, you lost a motor, right? Clearly. And here's the thing. Sometimes, guys, I smack myself in the head a little bit as I'm doing this because, like, you want to play sort of forensic doctor, and, you know, it's like, you're like, well, I crashed my copter, and I smashed into this one motor, and then when I sucked all the dirt out of it, every time I try to take off, the copter flips over. What do you think it is? You want to look at my black box? And I'm like, well, I don't really need to look at your black box, do I? I mean, you just told me you crashed into a tree and you damaged your motor, and now your copter's dropping out of the sky. It's not rocket science here. Yeah, but do you think it could be the... No, I think you broke the motor. So here we got a scenario where it's like, listen, I got these weird ESCs, and they've done this weird thing to them, and they're old ESCs, and they're running Afro firmware, and all the signs point to a faulty ESC, but no buts. All the signs point to a faulty ESC. It's probably a faulty ESC. This is not rocket science, you know? So I can see as you do the flip that you're losing a motor. So it's either the motors or the ESCs, right? And it's probably the ESCs. Why does it only happen when you do a full stick deflection roll? Because that is the time you're asking the motors to accelerate the most. So I would say spend $40, $45 on a set of Racer Star 25 amp ESCs from Banggood. Why do I pick those? Because they are the most budget, awesome ESC I know of. There are many, many other great ESCs out there at that price range and up. I just pick on that one because I'm convinced it's good, and I know it's cheap, and I don't like to presume that everybody is rolling in money. But any good ESC, up to including the Racer Star 25 amps from Banggood, for about $10 a piece. How much are they? Let's find out. Hold on. Let's look. They are a set of 20 amps. All right, so 20 amps are fine. 36 euros. What is that? There you go. $37.99. So for less than $10 a piece, you can get a set of these fantastic ESCs. They're great ESCs. You put them on the copter, it'll probably fix the problem. I don't promise it'll fix the problem, but it's like you got to start with the most likely thing. And the most likely thing here is that you have a bad ESC. You said it yourself. So we don't need to do some kind of, you know, crazy CSI forensic analysis to figure it out. You know, the guy walks into the police station, he's got a bloody knife in his hand, and, you know, and his wife is dead. You don't need to, like, you see where I'm going? The evidence is there. It's obvious, you know, so let's just do the most likely thing and figure it out. Okay. Yeah, exactly. Twisted bones. Yeah, the magnets came off and I super glued them back on, and, you know, then the bell came off, but I put the bell back on and I used a paper clip to hold it on, and now my copter's dropping out of the sky. What do you think? Should I raise my P gains maybe? Like, no, you should fix your motor. Right? It's not okay. Okay. Alrighty. Here we go. Last one. And I'm not, I sound a tiny bit annoyed, but I don't want anybody to take it personally. People get people are very polite, and if they think they've annoyed me, then they go like, oh boy, I'm so sorry. It's not like that. Just, you know, sometimes you smack your head and you go, come on, dude, really? That's all. It's not like annoying. So here we are with the last one. We're finally back around to Bob C1 with his Gobi 180 that I tried to do earlier. I don't know why I tried to do it earlier, but there you go. 2:03:50, 2 minutes, 2 hours, 3 minutes. Here is this thing. And we got pitch twitches at mid throttle. Now, the most likely thing to cause this is going to be a gyro twitch, I'm sorry to say. So we're going to open it up and we're going to look. Especially mid throttle oscillations sometimes relate to the ESCs. Unfortunately, I don't have an answer as to to tell you how to fix it, though, if it's the ESCs. I legitimately don't. I'm sorry to tell you. So, oh, nope, that's not right at all. Here's the Blackbox log. And we'll go over to this scene so you can actually see what I'm doing. Let's make sure I got the right one. 2443.txt. No, see, I haven't got the right one. See, it's a good thing I checked. Where's 2443? Download. There we go. We're going to get it. We're going to get it. 2443. Mid-twitch oscillation. So I'm going to look at the gyros. Yeah, right here. Bingo, bingo. Gyro, pitch gyro. This twitch here, that is a gyro twitch. That is not anything that happened in real life. The copter did not suddenly twitch on the yaw axis. The gyro reported that this was happening when it was not really happening. This is a glitch in your gyro. The motors and the PID loop will respond to this glitch as if it was real, but it's not. And as a result, when the copter is flying, it will go tick, tick, anytime the gyro does this, but it's not. Here it is again. Looks like you're having it on the pitch axis, which is interesting because it's usually the yaw axis. I don't know why, but it is. Oh, here it is on the yaw axis. Bingo. Yeah, there you go. Bingo. Yaw axis as well. So anytime you've got these gyro glitches, the first thing to do is to try to remove oscillation from the gyro as much as possible. The leading theory as to what happens with these gyro glitches is that there's all this vibration going on and it's getting into the gyro. The gyro is actually a mechanical, a micro-mechanical, physical thing. It is, I'm told, I don't know, it's wires, and the wires move and the capacitance between the wires is measured and so on. And if there's a lot of vibration, the wires can, I don't know, things can go wrong inside there. But the point is that the glitches like this can be eliminated if the overall vibration that's getting into the copter is reduced. So a lot of times you'll find that soft mounting the flight controller fixes this. If soft mounting the flight controller doesn't fix it, sometimes what fixes it is a capacitor. You put a capacitor on the power leads, and that reduces the electrical noise that gets into the gyro. Although I think that I seldom found capacitors to fix the problem. So if soft mounting doesn't fix it, a capacitor probably isn't. But you may as well try a capacitor. But you're marching slowly down the road toward a new flight controller. The question that I cannot answer is, why did we not see this before Betaflight 2.9? I don't know. There was a time not too long ago when all of a sudden we started getting gyro glitches, and I can only guess that they've always been there, but they were just filtered out. I don't know. If you turn on the hardware filter, if you set gyro LPF to 188, does this go away? I'm not suggesting you should fly that way because the copter will fly worse, but it's an interesting question. But that's where you're at. You've got gyro glitches, and that what you need to do to fix them is soft mount your flight controller, maybe add a capacitor to the board, but the thing to do is to get a new flight controller eventually is where you end up. I'm sorry to tell you that because it looks like you're flying a Dodo, and Dodo is an expensive board. Don't buy another Dodo. A Dodo is a little bit of a dated board. There's newer, better boards out there. Definitely get a board with a 6,000 gyro. I don't know off the top of my head which gyro the Dodo has. I think the Dodo is the same. I think a Dodo was a clone of the SP Racing. It was one of the first boards to clone the SP Racing F3 Target. So that would suggest that it has the 6500 gyro on it, I believe, which is the one with noise problems, more noise problems. So yeah, that's where I would go, is try soft mounting. And if that doesn't work, try a capacitor, but probably won't fix it. And then the next place to go is to get a new board with a 6000 gyro. Okay, that's where we're going to end up, and that's going to take us to the end here of this session. I'm just cleared the queue. I believe there's no more others. If I did miss your log that you submitted, I sincerely apologize. I try to keep track of all of the ones that people have submitted, but I don't always succeed at that. You can see I've got this, my to-do queue here. I don't always succeed at catching all of the posts when you make them, and I sometimes miss them. So if I did miss any, let me know. Post in the thread and say, hey, you missed mine, and link me to it. I'll put you right back at the top of the list for the next one. That's going to do it, though. Frank, you think it's the PDBs with flight controllers. I agree with you that they're a problem. They're more likely to have the problems, but I don't actually think that's it because, I mean, I think I was the first one of those that became big was the DTFC, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. Was there a flight controller that had an integrated PDB before the DTFC? And I think we were seeing these problems before then. They definitely got worse with the ones with the integrated PDB and flight controller. It is a real challenge to design a flight controller and PDB at one board without getting major problems with electrical noise. It can be done, but it is a real challenge. So yeah, I think that's not the whole story. The first board I remember having this problem was the Lumineer Lux. The Lumineer Lux had the 6500, and people started reporting noise problems with it. And it got blamed on the 6500 gyro. There's been some back and forth on that, on whether the 6500 is in fact at fault. But that's when I remember it first starting to happen. But it seems like it's gotten way more prominent. I remember doing a noise analysis of the Lumineer Lux and not seeing these gyro twitches like we're seeing in Blackbox now. There were other things that were going on, but I don't remember the gyro twitches. So I just don't know. It's pretty weird. It's pretty weird. And here we're seeing it even on some boards with the 6000. The 6000 is not immune, so I don't know. It's a tough one. Anyway, thank you guys for coming out. Thank you guys for watching. I hope it was educational. I hope it was helpful, and happy flying.